like I'm running in circles. One day I'm up, next time I'm down. And how could I ever learn to trust you if on my solid ground is me? And I keep on trying to earn your love, even though without you I know I can do nothing. So teach me to lay down all of my burdens, because only in you I have enough. Yeah, I have enough. Yeah. Yet time and time again you're faithful, and prove yourself to be good. But I still feel like I'm able to be everything I need, and I keep on trying to earn your love, even though without you I know I can do nothing. So teach me to lay down all of my burdens, because only in you I have enough. Yeah, I have enough. Yeah, I have enough. I have enough. Yeah.
Hey everybody, good morning. Hi. My name's Andy. This is Willis Stewart. That's her government name. Just kidding. Okay, we are here this morning to say hello and that we love you and that we miss you. And thank you so much for joining us today on Sunday. It's very different these days. Church is very different these days, but we are not confined into a building. That's not exactly what church is. Church is being together and being one and spending time with God. So, good morning to you. Miss you guys so much. Welcome to the announcements. So I'm going to do the announcements today. So the first thing that I want to talk about is that there is support for everybody, for you, for anybody that needs it. So if you're kind of going through a lot right now emotionally, and you could use some mental health resources or just kind of somebody to talk to, please reach out to leadership@oaklifechurch.com. there have been different resources set up to be able to help our community during this time. So feel free to reach out. We're in this together. You're not alone. Please don't hesitate, even for a moment, to just because we're sheltering in place doesn't mean that we have to isolate ourselves from helping each other. So please, please, please reach out if you need it. The next thing is the benevolence fund. I'm a huge fan of this because basically what it is it is a fund that was set up to help our community during this time. A lot of folks are struggling financially because of layoffs or just shifts in life. So if you need help financially, please reach out to benevolence@oaklifechurch.com. So this fund was set up for anyone that needs it. And if you found that you're in a place where you have extra finances to be able to help the community, you can donate to oaklifechurch.com/generosity. And so just know that some of us are in a position to be able to pour out and some of us are in a position to receive. And so that is life, that is constant. So please, if you're in a position either way, take advantage of those things that are set up for you. The next thing is the Oak Life Instagram is doing a day in the life. This has been super fun to watch. If you don't have an Instagram, you can still sign up for this. So if you're interested in letting us into your day, it doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be super full or, spectacular. It just basically letting us into, to share your heart, to let us into what your day looks like during shelter in place, to talk about how you're feeling during this time. It's a way for us all to get to know people of the community. Also, it's a good way for us to encourage each other or to create something sort of different than our own day in the life, if that makes sense, just to switch it up. So if you're interested in hosting that, please email Chris@oaklifechurch.com and sign up for that, because it's been so much fun, personally for me, to watch each person's day and sort of get to know them a little bit better. I've really, really enjoyed this, especially in this time where it can feel a little bit lonely. Next thing is another thing that's been fun that, Willow and Greg and I have been taking advantage of is this coffee hour. So at 9 a.m. on Sundays, we're doing this virtual hangout on Google Hangout, and we're getting together on there, and it's a combination of catching up, maybe going around the room with a question. We're also goofing around and just kind of laughing. So that's nice, right? It's a good way to switch it up. So please, if you're interested in joining that, I can personally say from experience, it's a lot of fun. If you just email Chris@oaklifechurch.com, he can send you an invite link, because it's ours by RSVP or invite only. So that is something that you can do. And then I'm going to read like a little snippet about prayer on Wednesdays. So Wednesdays, we are having prayer at noon, and it's a way to stay connected and to pray for our world. We're asking for everyone, not even people joining, that can join in other ways, but to set an alarm on their phones for Wednesdays at noon to take a brief moment to pray for our church, to pray for our world, and for anything else that may be on your heart. You can also check out the pandemic prayer wall on our website to pray along with others. And now we're going to move around the weekly check-ins to some new times. So basically, if you had joined the weekly check-ins, I know they had been put in the newsletter as well as like on the Facebook page. So if you just like the idea of having a normal check-in time during the week, the times are shifting. So there's going to be a doodle, which is basically like a sign up link where you can sign up the best day and time that works for you that's available. So check out the newsletter. It'll be in there, or you can email Chris@oaklifechurch.com to also receive access to the doodle so that you can be a part of the weekly check-ins. It's just a good way to kind of check in with each other and to have something to look forward to during the week. And so that is it for the announcements. So we're going to move into the couch convos. So if you are home right now, and you're kind of hanging out solo, you can take a minute, pause the video, and you can call somebody, whether it be somebody that you go to church with, or if it's a neighbor or a family member. Just give them a call, and or if it's somebody next to you, take time to answer these questions. But first, give yourself a communal, either give somebody a hug or give yourself a big hug, and share how you're doing. And when do you feel most connected to others is another question. Thanks so much for joining me this morning, and I will see you all soon. Love you.
Good morning, Oak Life. Welcome this morning as we take this time to worship together as a community, though virtually. I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge all that is happening. There's a lot going on. And in this time, in this space that we have access to, whatever it is that you're bringing, whether it be wrestling with anger, fear, anxieties, isolation, whether it is absolute rage, frustration, being hit with tear gas, being in all that comes with rioting and protesting, whatever it is, in this time. We'd like to remind you that you are not alone. We hear you. We see you. Our hope is that as much as possible, we can be in this together and feel this with you. In effort and in honor of that aspect of togetherness, we're going to take time this Sunday to do something very traditional in Oak Life's history, which is a Story Sunday, where we reflect the community back to the community by listening to the stories and the lives of Oak Life members. So I'm going to read a little bit of our intro to the Story Sunday. We'll close with a prayer and we'll continue service. That being said, Story Sunday has been part of our community since the beginning. It is an Oak Life ritual. Vulnerability and authenticity are its sacraments. We do this in reverence to our core value, deep community. Taking some Sundays to just hear from our community has been an opportunity to demonstrate decentralization of the center stage and practice empathy for our community. Today, you will hear from individuals within our community who will share a story from a part of their life. While not necessarily connected to recent events, this is a chance to practice togetherness. Though it is not a traditional sermon, hearing the lived experience of people's lives can be powerful and a powerful way to witness God in others. While we used to do this in person, we hope that the heart of Story Sunday will carry over to this online format as well. As we hear from various individuals, we want to note that there are two groups a part of these spaces, speakers and listeners. Take a moment to think about what it would be like to get up in front of a church, albeit virtually, and share your story. Take a moment to think about being safe people and safe listeners. Finally, take a moment to reflect on authenticity and vulnerability within church. As we invite folks to share a story with us, would you please pray with me? Today we're going to hear from Leticia, Matt, Corey, Say, and Paris. Let us pray. God, you choose to communicate to us through stories. Our connection with Jesus is built upon a narrative. Thank you for your word and thank you for your story. It is in this faith tradition we share our personal stories with each other for a chance to reflect you. Let us strive towards seeing each other in a truer sense and doing so to see a truer reflection of you. Amen.
Hi, Oak Life. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Leticia. Oak Life has been a part of my life for about 2 years now. I remember the first time I sat in on a Sunday story service, I thought to myself, I hope I can get to the point where I'm through this and I'm brave enough to stand in front of everyone and tell my story. So here I am. All my life, I've strived for perfection. I did all the things you were supposed to do. I tried to be the perfect daughter, the perfect older sister, the perfect student. I went to church. I was the good girl. One day I fell in love, got married, and moved away. Everything was perfect until it wasn't. After years of being married, we finally decided to have children. We tried for 2 years. It finally happened. We were elated. We decided to wait to tell our friends and family. During the time of waiting is when we went to our first ultrasound. That's when I found out I was to expect a miscarriage. I was devastated. I felt alone. I was away from my closest family and friends. I didn't know who to talk to, especially since no one even knew I was pregnant. So how could I tell them now? He didn't want to try again. 2 years passed. One day, I realized I was having feelings for my boss. The first person I told, my husband. Before I was able to admit those feelings to myself or God, I told him. He was my best friend. I wanted our relationship and marriage of almost 15 years to work. The first thing he told me was, I've been talking to someone else for a year. I said, this makes sense because I've felt alone for a long time now. We need to fix this. I was the bad girl now. I was the reason why our marriage was ending. I was the cheater even though nothing had happened. I sought counseling to fix myself. How could I be so in love with my husband yet have feelings for someone else? It didn't make sense. After a few months, nothing changed. I was the only one trying. I didn't understand. Why didn't he want me? I was heartbroken. I didn't feel like he was doing anything, so I left. I quit my job, I moved, and eventually ended up with the person I once called my boss. Fast forward 4 years. He got a job in San Francisco, and I thought, I do not want to move back home. He told me it'd only be for a few years, so I agreed. We were in Minnesota at the time. I get to move back to California, be closer to my friends and family again, especially since it'd been about 14 years since I lived in the same city as them. One morning, I woke up to my boyfriend screaming an inch away from my face. So many thoughts ran through my mind. This was different. I seen darkness in his eyes. I seen him look at the firearm on the nightstand next to me. I was afraid. I felt trapped. I had nowhere to run. The second he turned his back, I ran out the house in my PJs, shoes in one hand, my car keys in the other hand. I just ran to my car, didn't close the front door behind me. It was just my first thought of safety. No wallet, no ID, nothing. I didn't know what to do or who to call because if I told someone there was no going back, surely this was a mistake. We'll figure this out, right? I then seen the garage door opening in front of me, and that's when I seen him there standing with a firearm in his hand. I turned the car on, reversed out the driveway, sped off, parked at a nearby grocery store, and called the police. That was the start of staying in multiple domestic violence shelters for almost 2 months. I was homeless, no clothes, nothing. I had to rebuild. This time is when I realized I was in a psychologically abusive relationship. I had to work through all of this while going to work every day pretending I was okay. He would threaten my life and threaten my family's life. I never told anyone, I would tell myself. He would never harm you, would he? He's never laid a finger on you. He's just upset. This will pass. He always apologizes. The reality is, if I didn't run out the house that day, I wouldn't be alive to share my story today. After that day, I lived in constant fear and panic that he'd find me. He always told me he'd find me. I had vivid nightmares. He'd find me and harm me. I had to erase my old life, social media, phone number. I stayed away from my family and friends in fear he'd be waiting there. I had to start over. In a city I didn't even want to be in. I was lost. I've always gone to church and believed in God, but where was he now when I needed him the most? I vividly remember this one night before I changed my number. He called countless times from a private number since he'd been blocked. Until I finally answered, I asked him to leave me alone. He threatened my life again. I felt tormented. There's no escaping this man. I hung up on him. As soon as I hung up, I got out of bed. I dropped to my knees, crying hysterically, and I prayed to God. How am I going to get through this? How? A thought entered my mind that I knew was God. He said, get up and go back to sleep. Everything will be okay. I immediately stopped crying, felt peace. I got up, went to bed, and fell asleep. Another day, I felt God tell me about Exodus 14:14. The Lord will fight for you. You only need be still. That's what I did. Waited for God to tell me my next move. Somewhere during this time is when I found Oak Life. I felt at home. Fast forward to today. I am now brave enough to share my story with everyone watching. I'm thankful to be alive and thankful for God's love and forgiveness. I know I'll never be perfect, and I now accept myself fully with all my flaws because I know that I am made perfect in Him. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Paris, and I wanted to share a couple of stories with you today that I hope will bring hope in these times. So for a little background, I was not born in a Christian home. I probably didn't hear the word God until 3rd grade, and it wasn't until about 8 years ago that I was baptized and became Christian, and it totally transformed my life. I remember I promised myself one thing when I did it, and it was that whenever I heard God, I would always say yes. Like when I could hear him clearly and I knew it was from him, I would always say yes. And it's unfolded into this crazy journey. Over the last 8 years, I have lived in so many different places, moving every 6 to 8 months. And my faith has been the most incredible adventure of my life. And so I want to share a couple moments with you today. For 4 years now, I've known I was going to live in Oakland. It just kept coming up. And 2 big things I wanted to share. One was 3 years ago for my birthday. I went to Patagonia. I was living in Argentina, and I went to Torres del Paine for a 5-day backpacking trip. And anything you could possibly imagine happened. I got super sick the first day. I almost missed a bunch of my bus rides there. I got my period 2 weeks early with nothing prepared during my trek. It was crazy, but something kept pushing me forward and getting me to the end. And at the end, I met this guy, and he was one of those people you just kind of click with. And he goes, "We may never see each other again, but tell me everything. What's your life story? What are your dreams? What do you want to do in this life?" And something that had just been on my heart for a while just kind of spilled out. And I said, I would love to have a nonprofit for Latinx kids in Oakland, California. And he's jaw dropped, and he goes, "I have a best friend who just opened a nonprofit for Latinx kids in Oakland, California. And you two would love each other." And so he connects us, and it's this crazy moment. And we keep in touch for over the next couple of years. And fast forward to last year, I just moved back to the United States. And I was in Las Vegas and was like, okay, it's my time to go to Oakland. I'm ready, God. And I start looking up housing, and I start looking at jobs, and I'm super disheartened by the prices. And realistically, it just didn't seem like something I could do. I applied to one job and then was like, God, I can't do it. It's very expensive, and I'm not ready, and I need to save. And then once I do, I'll go, just not yet. And within the hour, I got a phone call from the job that I applied to. And they were like, "Let's Skype now for an interview." And halfway through the interview, she tells me she loves me and offers me the job and says, "If you want it, it's yours." And I'm like, give me a day. And I'm like, what am I going to do? So then I get off and I start thinking, and I get this Facebook message from a woman I hadn't seen in about a decade who went to middle school with me. It said, "I know you're trying to move to California. I'm not sure where, but I live in Oakland right by the lake. And if you want a spot, I have an extra room for $800. No signing, no nothing. Just help you get on your feet." And so in a day, I told God I didn't want it. And then all of that happened. And I knew, I'm like, we're going to Oakland. So I pick up and I move to Oakland. And the house ends up being 2 blocks away from the guy that I got in contact with, the nonprofit. He ends up helping me get a job for after my summer job. This whole thing happens, and then January hits. The job I'm in is terrible. I feel super exploited. It's an unsafe place for the community I'm working with, and I quit. Get a new job, and then quarantine hits, and I have no job. Something happens with my roommate and our housing situation and our landlord, and then I have no place. And I just come to this point where I'm like, God, I'm at zero. I don't have anything here, and you practically dragged me here, and I know I'm supposed to be here. I know there's a reason, and I just don't get it. And I went on this hike a few weeks ago, and I just prayed, and I was like, God, open my eyes and open my heart to whatever it is you need me to know and see and hear, because I feel so lost, and I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't know why I'm here. And I go on this hike, and I find this tree, and I start meditating, and I just get this picture in my head, this I'm just like imagining Jesus in the clouds, and I'm realizing that there are two moments, or two lenses of my faith that I continue to oscillate between. And one is this, like, God is so loud and present, and I'm always hearing where he wants me to be. And then there's another lens where he feels absolutely nowhere. Like, there's no in between for me in my faith. And like, I just feel lost, and I can't hear him, I can't see him, I can't feel him, and it's really frightening for me. And I realize that in these lost moments, there's like this image of Jesus in the clouds, and he's just like giggling and laughing at me, and in like a sweet way, in like a, look how sweet you are when you're so frustrated. And like, there's no sign because you don't need one. When I don't hear God, I don't think it's because he's not there. I think it's because he's carrying us through it, and we're already exactly where we're supposed to be. Like, I think that the whole point of all of this is that we are always exactly where we need to be, and life is always as it should be. Life is always as it should be. And even when he feels far, he's right there holding us. And so this like feeling of like, well, I'm here. I'm where I feel God has called me to be, and though it feels very empty, I like know that he's here. And I know that it's gonna be okay. And that there's just no need to turn right or turn left or do anything different. And so I'm sending you all lots of love. Be sweet with yourselves. Do whatever you can wherever you are with what you've got, because it's truly all you need.
Hey Oak Life, my name's Corey, and I'm here to talk about video games and my story in relationship to that. So I think that most people think that video games are a waste of time, and I honestly get that. I know it has a stigma to a lot of people, and I often have to hear about it or hear about other people's relationship to it, and that's fine. You know, I actually honestly don't mind. I love talking about video games. But I think the most important thing I'm going to say today is if you are lucky enough to have a video game as a hobby, congratulations. You have the best hobby in the world. I might be a little biased, but whatever. I could go through a bunch of research that either proves or honestly disproves how good video games are for your brain, for your development, for screen time. I mean, basically, there's valid arguments on both sides. And so it felt like pointless to include it because it's would take up probably a couple months to go through it all. But I call myself a gamer, and that feels weird to identify myself as that, because I think the image is not really how I see myself. But in reality, the average gamer is about my age, 35 years. Well, I'm not 35, I'm older than that, but about 35 years, and plays often, but not like all the time. That's the average gamer. And the industry is actually really cool, really diverse, really interesting. I think if you get into it, you can see just how much there's video games for everybody, and how diverse and interesting and prolific the industry is. I think it's important to say, though, that there's a lot of problems with it, including like harassment of LGBT plus people, of women, of minority groups. It's just like there's a lot of harassment that happens, and it's important to mention that, just because it often goes unmentioned. So, but I feel like, unfortunately for everyone, this video is supposed to be about me, so I'll stop talking about the industry. Honestly, I guess I should say also that it feels weird talking about this escape, or this hobby, and with what's going on in the world right now. I feel like more attention should be given to that than me giving a story, but Kyle and Chris are making me do this. Greg is not. Thank you, Greg. But anyways, so I feel like there's a weird privilege attached to video gaming that allows me to withdraw from the world and the difficulties of my life, and that is not an option for most people, and I'm lucky enough that it is for me. And I've needed it, especially the past couple months. It's been a really needed escape. But it's not long before reality creeps back in. I got Emma, our foster daughter, to take care of. I got chores to do. I got stuff to do. I'm a full-time stay-at-home dad right now, so there's a lot to do, and I don't get a lot of time. But I do have the privilege of having any time at all, and I'm very thankful for that. I think that the hardest part is just that I'm hard on myself for playing video games, for doing this escape, but also it's needed, and it's hard to explain why, but that's what I'm gonna try to tell you today. I guess that's my story, is that I have a little grace with myself because I have ADD, and it's a weird thing to say. I think I'm not ashamed of it, or I mean, most people don't really care, or not don't care, but like it's not like a heavy weighing admission to tell someone that. So and a lot of people say they have it too, and I struggle with that a little bit, because it feels to me that it's similar for people to say that they are depressed, and they call that depression, or that that kind of difference is speaks to me about how people express their struggle. I'm not trying to dismiss anyone's whatever, like diagnosis or anything. I think everyone can decide for themselves. But it's just, when you tell me that you're distracted at work, it doesn't feel like the same thing, and so I'm gonna try to explain what it's like for me, which ADD might be different for you, and I don't understand that, and that's probably the reality. I don't know, but here we go. I feel like for me, the reason why video games are so important is because it's on my same wavelength. It's kind of hard to explain, really, and I don't know how to explain it, but it's similar, I think, to if you swim in the ocean, to it being just right, like the waves are right, the temperature's right, and you're moving, but it just feels fun. It feels like your surroundings are peaceful with your body. I think another way to describe it is when you're hanging out with friends, or you're just at home, and like the perfect song comes on for that moment. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's like you feel it almost before you know that it's happening. That's what it feels like when I play video games. I don't really know how else to explain it, but it's restful, it's peaceful, and but when I'm not playing video games, it's a battle. Like it's a battle with my brain chemistry. Can I drink a cup of coffee, or drink water, or exercise, or eat bread, or like what is it going to take for my brain to feel normal. And then normal is a difficult thing for me to talk about because I feel it when I can actually sit down and focus on something. That feels awesome, and it's so rare. So that's what video games are for me. It takes me to a place where I can rest my brain and I can feel something on my brain's wavelength. And I guess I just I found something, a thing that works for me, and I want to tell Oak Life that I hope you find your thing. It doesn't, I mean, obviously, for whatever is going on in your life, your thing that is a privilege to be able to access, but we live in America, and we have the privilege of having a thing to rest, to restore, and go back out and make a difference. Like that's our privilege, is to an opportunity to have the energy to go back out there. So thanks, Oak Life. I hope you have a great Sunday morning. I miss you all.
Hi, I'm Say, and this is my story. My gender assigned at birth was female, but my first words were "I'm a boy," and I pretty much lived that statement until I was 19 years old. I remember being attracted to women by the age of 5 years old, and I was born and raised in Los Angeles, and being a sensitive soul, I went into the boys' restroom to avoid getting teased and slapped, which would happen on occasion when I would go into the girls' restroom. And to avoid getting bullied, I became friends with people who were involved in an Asian male gang. And by the age of 13, I was seen as one of the boys, and I dated straight Asian girls. When I was 19, due to pressure from churches that I attended, I started living more according to my gender assigned at birth. I learned how to put on makeup, curl my hair, and wear dresses, just like I learned how to beat guys up and say "what's up" when I was acting like a alpha male, and put on sports bras. I learned how to perform tricks in what felt like the circus of an evangelical Christian ministry, and I climbed its ranks quickly as a poster child of its anti-gay agenda. Speaking to a stadium of 40,000 plus people, and also speaking on TBN by the age of 30 years old. Due to my sensitivity, I learned to chameleon and adapt quickly to avoid rejection and criticism. I was performing like a circus animal. I was traveling all over the world and speaking anywhere from 4 to 15 times a month. And what I learned is that when we're not being authentic to who we are, we will inevitably burn out. And no matter how much external validation I received, it never felt enough. There was like this huge void inside of me, and that couldn't be filled no matter how much affirmation and applause I received. That's because I measured my worth according to the audience's standards. And though they may have valued me, I didn't value me. And until I learned to love and belong to myself and accept myself, I would never feel enough. I needed to reconcile with myself and stop rejecting myself. So by my late 30s, I could no longer perform hiding in a costume. I felt like the mask I was wearing was suffocating me. I went into a deep depression, and I became suicidal after going through a program to address my male identity. When I decided to come out as queer, and chop off my hair at 38 years old, my parents and most of my Christian friends rejected me. That's when I was forced to leave my small homogenous tribe of conservative Asians and Christians. And around that time, my work, the company I was working for at the time, Workday, had an event hosted by the Talented 10th, Workday's Black Employee Resource Group. And we were discussing how we define our identity and how we can create an environment that honors everyone. I broke down and told them about how I recently came out and lost most of my community. My Black workmates intimately understood what it was like to be shunned and marginalized simply for being who they are. They quickly adopted me, had lunch with me, and became my biggest fan club. One leader in particular, Darius Brown, would encourage me by saying things like, "I'm on your team always, whoever you are and whoever you become." And he lives it. I just talked to him a few days ago, even though I haven't been at Workday for over a year. When most people no longer wanted to affiliate with me, they not only stood by me, embraced me as one of their own, and it's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about Black Lives Matter now. They show me that every life matters, no matter who you are, and I'm simply living out the lesson they taught me and paying it forward. I also began dating women way outside of my small homogenous tribe that I had hidden for most of my life. They were Lebanese, German, Latina, Jewish, Indian, and Italian. And their perspectives vastly expanded my world. Leave it to a decade of suppressed sexuality to launch me into exploring different tribes outside my own. But damn, there were a lot of heartbreaks. And that's when I realized that what I thought was a curse my entire life was my superpower. As someone born different from everyone else, I thought my uniqueness and sensitivity were my greatest liability. Little did I know that they would be the very characteristics that helped me to connect deeply and intimately with those in the margins and help build the bridges between different seemingly opposing tribes. For instance, having lived 20 years as both male and female presenting, I help bridge the understanding between those seemingly opposite gender identities. As both a Christian and a queer person, I help build the bridge between those seemingly opposing tribes. And last but not least, as an Asian American, I help bridge the expanse between East and West. And I find pride in being able to exist in many different tribes and understand their nuances every single day. It's rare that I meet somebody that I can't understand and empathize with, whoever they are or wherever they are, and I've been all over the world. And unlike Samson in the Bible, who lost his power when his hair got chopped off, I found my power through my haircut, and I no longer see a stranger in the mirror. It's me. And now I weep with those in the margins instead of avoiding them, knowing I am one of them. After all, they taught me the most important lessons in life, that we aren't made for the circus, and we aren't built for productivity, efficiency, and control. And last but not least, we are built for love and belonging. Everywhere I've been all over the world, everyone wants love and belonging. And it's not efficient, it's not predictable, and it's not something we can control. But love and belonging are wild and untamed, like who we were all originally created to be. Thanks for listening.
Dear son, there are two worlds out there for you. I'm sorry for the world you will have to face in the future right now. The world you will have to face when you begin to look like a man. This world will fear you, will hate you, will want to hurt you, just because of the color of your skin. You will face a greater struggle than I've ever faced in this world. You will have to overcome things I didn't have to overcome. You'll have to work harder in this world than I ever have, because it will do whatever it can to make you feel powerless, make you feel ugly, make you feel not good enough, make you feel alone. This world will do everything it can to tear you down. But there's another world too, one where I hope you can feel like this moment. A world where there is wonder, where there is beauty, where there is light, where there is love. A world where there is hope. It's a world where you won't have to be afraid of police, where you won't have to fear what people are thinking of you if you're in a park alone, or if you're jogging down a street. A world where you are respected, a world where you can shine. A world where you are seen exactly how your mom and I see you right now, beautifully and wonderfully made. Until then, I make you this promise. We are going to do everything in our damn power to change this place, to make sure that second world is the one you step into in the future. Until then, don't you ever for 1 second believe what they're telling you right now about who you are. And you're not alone. There are other sons, brothers, sisters, and family that are going to be there with us to make sure that Black lives matter. Until then, keep shining. Until then, keep hoping. We fight until then. Love, Dad.
I lean not on my own understanding. My life is in the hands of the maker of heaven. I lean not on my own understanding. My life is in the hands of the maker of heaven. So I give it all to you, God, trusting that you'll make something beautiful out of me. Oh, I give it all to you, God, trusting that you'll make something beautiful out of me. I lean not on my own understanding. My life is in the hands of the maker of heaven. I lean not on my own understanding. My life is in the hands of the maker of heaven. I give it all to you, God, trusting that you'll make something beautiful out of me. Oh, I give it all to you, God, trusting that you'll make something beautiful out of me. I will climb this mountain with my hands wide open. I will climb this mountain with my hands wide open. I will climb this mountain with my hands wide open. I will climb this mountain with my hands wide open. We will climb this mountain with our hands wide open. We will climb this mountain with our hands wide open. We will climb this mountain with our hands wide open. We will climb this mountain with our hands. There's nothing I hold on to. There's nothing I hold on to. my own understanding. My life is in the hands of the maker of heaven. I give it all to you, God, trusting that you'll make something beautiful out of me. I give it all to you, God, trusting that you'll make something beautiful out of me.
Yo, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for being a part of this as much as possible. We want to just hold on to this opportunity to be together, to share stories, whatever platform, whatever modality we can at this time. So thank you again so much. And special thanks to Leticia, Matt, Corey, Say, Paris for sharing a bit of your life, a bit of your heart, a bit of yourself with the broader community. It means so much. And everybody involved with the editing and putting this together, keeping this thing alive. I love it. So Oak Life, thank you. In closing, we will go out with a benediction that we've been doing for some time in this platform. So that being said, Oak Life, who can separate us from the love of God? Can troubles or hardships, persecution, hunger, poverty, danger, pandemics, or even death? The answer is nothing, absolutely nothing. No matter what comes our way, we have overwhelming victory through God who loves us and gave everything for us. So Oak Life, go into the coming week with hope and joy, confident in the knowledge that God's love goes with you. God of love, be with us now as we go forth to love and serve the world, either in person or from a distance. Continue to live, love, fight, and follow the way Jesus does. And with that being said, peace out, fam.
My hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness.
I dare not trust
the sweetest frame,
but
but only lean on Jesus' name. On Christ the solid rock I stand, all other ground is sinking sand.
All other ground is sinking sand.
When darkness tries to hide his face,
I rest on his unchanging grace.
And every high and stormy gale, my anchor holds with